Well, the day has finally come. I am finally outside in the craft building, and I am going to get ready to start building props for the hayride. And today's project is going to be the entranceway. We're going to build two big columns that are covered in jack-o'-lanterns that will be the first thing people see when the hayride gets started. But before I get started building, it's been a while since I've shown you guys my craft room, and since you're going to be looking at it an awful lot this season, I thought maybe I would give you a short tour of what it is and what it's going to become, because right now what it is a huge mess. Hang on. Okay, so through that door is the room that you guys have seen a lot. That's where all of my actual crafting stuff is, all of my paints and supplies and that sort of thing. This side of the building is where all of the bulk larger things get stored. Like, for instance, that is the backdrop from the entranceway to our haunt from a couple of years ago. Over here are all of my boxes by theme. So you've got the witch theme and the spider webs and the bones, body parts that aren't bones, that sort of thing. The bigger, bulkier things. And right now it's a bit of a mess. There's my sign from a couple of years ago, and over here I think I've got my baby blocks and some taxidermy. Our plan sometime soon is to empty out everything that's up there in that loft, because that's just a mess. It's old chinchilla cages from back when I was a breeder and just things we don't need. And then a lot of these things that I don't use every day, like the bones will keep down, the body parts will keep down, but spider webs, witches, zombie, carnival, things that are more, for specific themes, I can go ahead and put up here and out of the way, and so everything down here will just be things that I need on a regular basis for ongoing prop builds, and that's going to be really, really nice. But for right now, this is what it is, and so, sorry, we're just going to have to look at it. But anyway, back to the prop that we're making today. When I was going through all of my boxes and organizing, I came across this big box of old light-up jack-o'-lanterns. I pick these up all the time at the thrift store because they're like 99 cents, and it seems like they almost always have them. But I kept them in the attic for a while, and some of them, like this one, crushed, but most of them broke into two pieces. And I've tried gluing them back, and I think the year before last, I cut holes here so I could put the all-night lights, solar lights in them, so they would light up automatically at dark. But even with the different types of glue, they just keep coming undone. So I had this whole box, and I was trying to figure out what to do with them, and that's when I got the idea for this project. So what I have done is I took this big piece of 4x8 foam, and I've cut a line, I marked a line at 1 foot down here and at 1 foot at the other end, and did a chalk line. And so these will become my two separate pieces, and the smaller end will be the bottom, and I'm going to cut it at an angle so that you don't have this straight line here. It'll be tilted back, so it just goes up, both sides. And then I'm going to bevel the top so it looks cooler. And then I'm going to take a bunch of these guys and cover it all over with some Christmas lights underneath it and some grate foam, so it all lights up and glows, and this is going to be a great entrance, I think. And because when they broke, we have these backs, so what I can do is take my hot knife, because this is pretty much just foam, it's pretty easy to cut. I'm going to do faces on these other sides too, so for each one that broke, I will now have two jack-o'-lantern heads. And I'll probably, cut these off at an angle so they sit differently, and then I'll fill up any holes with the grate stuff. And I think it's going to be a really neat entranceway to the hayride. So I'm going to go ahead and get my knife and get these two cut out, and then start laying these things out and see what we have. So I'll be right back in a minute. They're all coming out really good. It's hard to tell which ones are the fronts and which ones were the backs originally. Alright. We just have one more to do and we'll be ready to start the next part. Okay, so we finally got all of our pumpkins cut out. And by the way, Heat guns do not cut these. Well, I mean, they do cut these things, but it took forever. So finally I called Randy and said, nope, come out, help. So I've got all my pumpkins laid out pretty much where I want them. And so I'm going to, number one, take pictures so I remember who goes where. But then I'm going in and tracing where the pumpkins go. So I'm going to come back in and paint underneath this with that orangey yellow color so that when these light up, it'll help reflect the light out a little bit better. So let me move on and do that, and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so I'm done with all of the yellow. Doesn't that just scream terrifying prop? It looks like I'm doing a clown room. Anyways, I've got all of the spots yellow, and another important point if you're going to do one of these is make sure that you stack up your pumpkins in the order that they were on the board, because they're all different sizes. So I started at the top and kind of zigzagged my way down and stacked them accordingly next to each one. So hopefully when I'm all finished I can figure out how to put them all back. So now it's just a matter of waiting for paint to dry. Okay, here's the first test with the lights in it. So now it's just a matter of taking this wire and actually hooking it right around the bases where it's going to be, so it does like a full circle like this. So when it's on, you're just seeing the light and you're not actually seeing a light bulb in there. So that's the next thing I'm going to do, is hook these around the outside of the jack-o'-lanterns and then hook the jack-o'-lanterns actually to the foam. So that's the next step, and we will see how it goes. Okay. So I have two right here done, and really this is just busy work. I'm just slowly hot gluing these things onto here. So I have these all done, and now I need to put these somewhere safe, and I've got to Gorilla Glue these down, and I'm going to do the second pillar, and then I'm going to come back and cover the whole thing with great stuff, and I'm going to paint it really strongly because I really don't want to see these lights. And I know, you know, if you put Christmas lights under great stuff, typically it does show, but I'm hoping I can really hide them with some good coats of paint. And if I see a little bit, it's not that big a deal, but I don't obviously want a zigzag pattern from pumpkin to pumpkin. I had the option, I thought long and hard about coming up from the back side into each of these pumpkins, and I could have done that because I definitely have enough lights for it. But then I would have to cover the back of this with something, because I don't want you to be able to see light coming from the back of it. And you know, when you drive past it on the hayride, of course people are going to be looking backwards really easily, and I didn't want to have that added work. Plus, if it has a little bit of light to it, I think it'll, you know, just make it more interesting. And I'm going to front light it a little bit as well. Not too much, because I don't want to take away from the glowing pumpkins, but just enough so that you can see the pumpkin detail on here as well. So I think it's going to be okay for what it is. But anyway, I'm going to get back to it. And okay, here we are, day 2, and I have all of the great stuff sprayed in on that one and that one there on the table. So now it's just a matter of painting. Okay, here's the final product. I think it turned out really cute. I mean, you can still see the lights coming through, but it's not such an obvious zigzag like I was afraid it would be. Well, actually on the camera it does kind of look like that, but in real life it's not quite that noticeable, and I'm really happy with it. You know, I'm still going back and forth about whether I should have gone in and poked the holes from the back, but I really like it. So I think I'm happy with how it turned out, even if you can see the little lights in between. So yeah, I like them. There's a little bit of a close-up of the detail. But anyway, one prop down, about 100 to go. Thanks for watching, and I hope you'll subscribe and follow along as I continue to build for the hayride. Happy haunting!